We also have precincts that you want to think about when you're thinking about the NYPD. In Manhattan, and if any of you have visited New York, you probably went to the city, and that's Manhattan. There's actually 34 precincts in Manhattan. The Bronx has 12 precincts. Brooklyn has also 34 precincts. Queens has 16 precincts. Staten Island, 3 precincts. The Transit Bureau has 12 districts, and the Housing Bureau has 9 service areas. So again, that illustrates how necessary and how large those not well-known areas, transit and housing bureaus, are necessary. And here's a visual, again, for you visual folks. You can kind of see where the precincts are. Also, this illustrates a little bit about the crime index in the different precincts. And there's a legend up here in the top left if you're interested in looking at that. Senior leadership within the NYPD. Here we list some of the areas of senior leadership, and also we took the time to put out to the side some of the insignias that you might see on the uniforms of the senior leaders. So if you do get a chance to meet some of these folks, you can take a look maybe at their sleeve or at their lapel and note their position within the department. We start off with the chief of the department and work our way down to sergeant, and there are certainly other officers who would be listed under sergeant, but we tried to limit it to some of the most senior positions here. And you might be wondering, well, how effective are these senior leaders? There are many complaints, as there are in any department, but in the early 90s, it's noteworthy to make mention of that complaints did fall. And however, they've been on the rise since the mid to late 90s, and there are many complaints today. And it all falls back to that person who's in charge, and that is the mayor. And many question the mayor's effectiveness in controlling the officers of the NYPD. Some of the big issues have been racial profiling and brutality, and some recent incidents involving senior leaders that you might have seen actually on TV include lieutenants who actually beat protesters at the Occupy Wall Street movement back in October of 2011. It's been almost a year ago, but there were photographs that you see down below here in this slide that are actually from both those separate incidents. There have also been 6 officers actually stripped of their badges in 2012 due to brutality. So leadership, is being questioned, but they are making strides to do what they can to address the leadership issues. And that brings us to some of the contemporary issues for 2012. And 5 of those big issues, certainly not all the issues, but 5 of the ones that we thought were some of the largest ones include police misconduct, use of force, minorities in policing, effects of policing on crime, law enforcement training. And in the next slide, we will take some time to go through all 5 of these contemporary issues for the current year. We'll start at the top with police misconduct. The NYPD has incorporated 7 separate centralized performance monitoring programs to try to deal with police misconduct. These programs identify and track individuals with discipline problems and/or personnel difficulties which may have an impact on job performance. The monitoring programs are a step in the right direction to try to limit this misconduct. There's no quick fix to anything, but we do think that these programs are a step in the right direction. The second contemporary issue is use of force. And again, you may have heard about this in the news. And as a part of a new training program, the NYPD officers have to feel that a suspect is a clear and imminent danger to them or others before resorting to using their firearms. Shootings are vigorously reviewed, and officers are questioned thoroughly and can be ordered to undergo additional training if they are involved in a shooting. They can be disciplined and they can be terminated if they are found to have shot someone without just cause. This policy has resulted in the reduction of officer shots fired, and some of you may have heard of the shooting over near the Empire State Building a few weeks ago. That is something that is being applauded for the NYPD. They did have to shoot the person who was putting others in harm's way, but they limited their shots, and this is supposed to be a nice, I guess, kind of a pat on the back for them as far as limiting the use of force and being just in their cause for shooting in that situation. The third area in the contemporary issues is minorities in policing. Because of a large number of retirements after the Commissioner Raymond Kelly took office, he had a great opportunity to hire a lot of new officers. And he started to take note of the ethnic composition of the city and recruited officers to fit the variety of ethnic groups that are present in New York. And New York's called the melting pot of the U.S. a lot of times. There are quite a few ethnic groups present there. So this has actually worked in the favor of the city, and they now say that they have officers who can speak over 60 languages on the NYPD. So that's pretty amazing. And anytime that you can communicate with people in their native language and you're able to better understand them and their issues, so that's a great thing. The fourth contemporary issue for 2012, Effects of Policing on Crime. Again, Commissioner Raymond Kelly here created a panel, and he did this in January 2011 to analyze the crime reporting system. But the panel has not issued a public report yet. In addition, the NYPD conducts regular audits of police reports to detect misclassified crimes. Officers have reported pressure to make crime seem less serious than it is, though, so that's the downside of this. Even though we don't have that public report, there are leaks from officers who have said that they are pressured to kind of downplay crime. So that's a serious concern in that area. And the fifth contemporary issue for 2012, law enforcement training. Inspector Samuel E. Wright is the commanding officer of the recruit training section of the NYPD. New training sections such as this are implemented to ensure that officers build upon past successes, remaining proactive in their work. And they're always offering new courses and trying to develop new courses that fit the needs of the officers in the NYPD, and of course to help them serve the people as best that they can. A couple things to think about as we finish up here. The NYPD was established back in 1844 with just 1,200 officers, and we've come full circle here. In 2012, they have 34,526 officers on the force. That's quite a few more than they started out with back in 1844. Police brutality was an issue in the early days of the force, and sadly that does still remain a prominent issue today. There are new units implemented today, and they do continue to implement new units as the need arises. And we talked a little bit about some of the units that they saw a need for even in the late 1800s, just after the force was established. In 1891, we saw female police matrons hired, but today we've come quite a ways, and all people hired on the force go through the same testing and the same training. So there is no division among genders. And I think a good way to sum this up is going back to part of the mission statement for the NYPD. All the officers serve the same mission: to enforce the laws, preserve the peace, reduce fear, and provide for a safe environment for the people of New York City. We hope that you have enjoyed our presentation. We hope that you've also learned something from our presentation. And we look forward to your feedback, and we hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for your time.